Okay, I'm going to continue our conversation with special right triangles. In class, we talked about how the 45, 45, 90 and the 30, 60, 90 triangles came about and why we have these certain labels on these certain sides. Okay, so if you need some more explaining on it, please make sure you ask. Okay, we're going to go through a couple problems. Okay, up in the corner, I put kind of like our little key up here so we can kind of look back on it. I recommend always having it on the top of your paper. First example I want to go through is going to be a 45, 45, 90. Okay, we have B, A, and 2 times the square root of 2 over here. All right, since we have a 45, 45, 90 triangle, we know this side and this side are congruent to each other. So that means B is also going to be 2 times the square root of 2. Now, finding the hypotenuse of this triangle. Okay, notice over here on our key, to go from a leg to our hypotenuse, we multiplied it by the square root of 2. So that's exactly what we're going to do here. We're going to take a side, multiply that side by the square root of 2. We did this the other day in class, how to multiply radicals together. So we have 2 times the square root of 2 times the square root of 2, which ends up being 2 times the square root of 4. Now the square root of 4 simplifies. We get 2 times 2, which we end up with 4 as our answer. So A is 4 for our hypotenuse. Okay, let's do another one. Let's say we have 45, 45, 90 again. 3 times the square root of 2, y, and x. Very similar to the first one, where we first know both sides are the same, because we have a 45, 45, 90. Okay, so y is also going to be 3 times the square root of 2. Okay, again, we're going from a side length to the hypotenuse. Okay, we took that side and we multiplied it by the square root of 2 to get our hypotenuse. Okay, so we're going to take one of our sides and multiply it by the square root of 2 to get us that value, our hypotenuse. So we have 3 times the square root of 2 times the square root of 2, which we know reduces to 3 times the square root of 4, because 2 times 2, I get 4 here. 3 times 2, we end up with a value of 6 for our hypotenuse. So x ends up being 6. All right, I want to go through one more where we're given the hypotenuse. Okay, so for this example, let's say we have y and x, and our hypotenuse is 6. Okay, so for this example, okay, we're given the hypotenuse, so to go backwards from the hypotenuse to a leg, we divide by the square root of 2. So that's exactly what we're going to do in this problem. Okay, we're going to take 6 and divide it by the square root of 2. Now we can't leave a radical or a square root in our denominator. Okay, so in order to get that radical away, I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom by the square root of 2. So now my numerator is 6 times the square root of 2, and my denominator is the square root of 4, because 2 times 2, I get 4. Now we can reduce a little more. We get 6 times the square root of 2 divided by 2, because the square root of 4, we get 2. We can keep reducing, because 6 divided by 2, that can reduce down. 6 divided by 2 we get 3. Then we also have to multiply it by that square root of 2. So one of our side lengths is 3 times the square root of 2. But since we have a 45, 45, 90 triangle, y is also 3 times the square root of 2. Okay, let's move on to our 30, 60, 90 triangle. Let's start off with an easy one and we will work our way up. Okay, so let's say we have our 30, our 60. Let's say we know our short side or our short leg to be 2. Okay, since we know our short leg, to go from our short leg to our hypotenuse, notice that we multiplied that side by 2. So that's exactly what we're going to do over here. We're going to take 2 and multiply it by 2. So we end up with 4 as our hypotenuse. Now to get the long leg, the one that's across from that 60, okay, notice from our short leg to our long leg, we multiplied by the square root of 3 to get there. So that's exactly what we're going to do to this side. We're going to take 2 and multiply it by the square root of 3. So we end up with 2 times the square root of 3 as our length of our long leg. All right, let's do a couple more of these. Let's say we have our hypotenuse this time. So let's say we have 10 and 30, 60 here. Okay, so notice that we are given our hypotenuse. I always think it's best to get your short side first. It's always easier to get to your short leg. So if we notice here, to go from 2x back to x, we'd have to divide by 2. So that's exactly what we're going to do here to get to that short leg. We're going to take 10 and divide it by 2. And we know 10 divided by 2, we get 5 for our side length. Okay, and then we go and try and find our long leg. And just like we did last time, we took our short leg and multiplied it by the square root of 3. So we're going to take 5 and multiply it by the square root of 3 to get 5 times the square root of 3 as our long leg. All right, one more where we're given our long leg this time. So let's pretend this is 30, 60, 5 times the square root of 3, and we're trying to find x and y. All right, so for this example, we were given our long leg. Okay, it's always easier if you go to your short leg first. Always try and get that short leg. So if we are going from our long leg to our short leg, we're going to divide by the square root of 3. So that's exactly what we're going to do here. We're going to take 5 times the square root of 3 and divide it by the square root of 3. So we get 5 times the square root of 3 divided by the square root of 3, and they end up canceling each other out. So we're left with 5 for our short leg. And then to go from short leg to hypotenuse, we multiply by 2. And that's exactly what we're going to do here as well. So we end up as x being 10. I want to go through one more problem where we're given our short leg, or I'm sorry, our hypotenuse. Okay, so we have 60, 30. Let's say we have 3 here. We're trying to find our long leg A and our short leg B. Okay, now obviously looks can be deceiving. That is a horrible triangle. Okay, but work with me. Since we were given our hypotenuse, It's always easy to go back to the short leg first. Everything kind of revolves around that short leg. Okay, so to go from our hypotenuse to our short leg, we're going to divide by 2. Okay, so divide by 2, b ends up being 1.5. And once we know that short leg, it's a lot easier to go to that long leg. Okay, multiplying by the square root of 3. So that's exactly what we're going to do here. Multiply by the square root of 3. So we end up with 1.5 times the square root of 3. Okay, but obviously 1.5, we can write that in a fraction, okay, and it looks a lot nicer when we keep it in fraction form. Okay, so if you can, try and keep it as 3 halves instead of 1.5. Okay, so b would be 3 halves here as well.